6 at 6 o'clock. Can we have a roll call, please? You are
Trustee Frazier. Here. Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Boyden.
Here.
Treasurer Bud. Here. Trustee Kelly, Clerk Wright, and Supervisor McNamara are excused, but you still have a quorum.
rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Indivisible, justice for all.
I think most of us don't remember that some of us were born with the money, but some of us were, but Tuesday is D-Day, which meant a lot to the whole world because of the Great War there. So I would like to take a minute to remember that day for what it means to us as Americans in honoring our veterans that were lost, the ones that were able to come home, the people that are in the services now that are there to protect us, the ones we've lost in the other wars that have happened since then. So we could have a moment of silence and remember what this means. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have the roll call. I am going to ask for an adoption of the agenda, but before that, I want to make a note that the consent agenda, item number 6, is going to be pulled and we will see it at a later date, so that needs to come off when that motion is made. On the regular agenda, we are going to move item number 4, which is the establishment of the homestead SAD, to item number 1, and then renumber the rest of them in that order. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the agenda.
I have a motion from trustee Frazier, support from trustee Boyden to accept the agenda as amended. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed, the same? Motion passes. Thank you. Now, we will move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of the following: the board meeting minutes of May 16th, the prepaid lists of May 15th, 25th, and June 1st, and the voucher list of June 6th, all of 2023.
Do I have support? Support. I have a motion from trustee Boyden, supported by trustee Frazier, to approve the consent agenda as amended. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now I will ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Support. And a motion by trustee Boyden, supported by trustee Frazier, to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. I will now turn that over to what director is handling the public hearing for the.
Good evening, board. Thank you for having me tonight. Here with me is the HOA, Ms. Patton, the contractor, Allied Cabin. And we're here this evening for the first of required 2 hearings for you to consider a resolution to establish the homestead condominium SAD Special Assessment District. This also will incorporate the hearing for the second hearing for the role for this process to continue forward. And so tonight, the board is requesting to hold the first of 2 required public hearings on the homestead condominium special assessment district. to consider approval of resolution 2023-12. Resolution 2023-12 is a resolution to establish the homestead condominium SAD and the schedule and hearing for SAD assessment roll for homestead. The average cost per resident after interest will be $6,701.31. For a annual payment of $1,340.26. So that's what we're here tonight for. If you have any questions, sure the board will be happy to answer. This project will be managed by the HOA. The township role in this will be to fund the upfront costs for this project, and it'll be paid back over 5 years. Any questions?
Is there anyone in the audience that has a question or would like to respond?
Yes, I am.
Would you please come to the podium, please state your name and your address.
Respected judges. Good evening. My name is Avdish Kumar, 6321 Florence Lane, Grand Durham Township, Michigan 48111. The question is, when you are going to take the interest from the residents? Is there any possibility you are going to increase the summer and winter tax during this period of 5 years? The money you are going to be take back from the residents?
I don't think I understood the question, sir. Did you want it?
I think he said,
I'm saying during this period, 5 years,
Right.
the city is going to increase the summer and winter tax also?
No, the assessment is for 5 years to pay back.
Yeah, this is payback for the amount of the roads repairs. For the house tax and the, I am talking about the house tax, winter and summer.
It will be assessed on the winter tax bill for 5 years.
and I think he's also asking, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's asking, is the township also going to raise the taxes during that period?
Yeah.
And that's,
The only way the taxes would be raised is if you vote in more millage for some reason, the taxes would be raised. And then the taxes can be raised by the CPI for 5%, whichever is greater.
Every year or one time in 5 years?
That happens every year. It's just like now, every year it can go up by that.
Is there any possibility you can exempt the taxes for 5 years?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes,
I just asked for the increase of the 5% increase that they can do, that doesn't come from the township, though, that comes from. That comes
Hi, trustees and Homestead HOI. Just to clarify, yes, annually, the taxable value of property does increase by 5% or whichever, 5% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. For 2023, the rate of inflation was 7.9%. So we were capped at that 5% increase on taxable value. Now that will correlate to someone's tax bill by obviously taking that taxable value multiplied by the millage rates to get that total increase of tax or the total tax bill. As Treasurer Bud stated, there is a difference. So the millage rates can also increase or decrease based on changes that are made by the voters. So to say that the taxes will increase every year, it's a generalization, more than likely, yes. But by exactly what number, we don't know at this point, because we're still receiving millage rates from the township, the school districts, and the county to get those tax bills generated. So while tax bills on every property in the entire township will generally increase, this is something separate from that. It will be on the tax bill, but it's a special assessment, which means it's in addition to those taxes, and it's simply to essentially pay back a loan that the township is willing to give the homeowners association to get their roads maintained and fixed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Steve Cloutier, I'm 6800 Sadie Lane. Of course, in the homestead, I really appreciate that the board township is considering this financing. I think it's a very, very important thing to do. It can only help the viability and the cost effectiveness and future costs or rising the cost of the housing and keeping, maintaining a good neighborhood that is easy to tell. Right now, you go through there and a lot of people won't want to move into a vacant house there just because of the roads. I think it's absolutely fabulous. Township can give us a 5-year loan to get this done, and it's well worth the $1,300 a year to get that done, which has been negotiated over numerous years here and needs to be done. Well, I've lived there since 2001 April, and the roads have just been getting bad. Patchwork that has been done has been inadequate at best. And this just really needs to be done. And I thank the board's consideration for taking this on and helping us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Hearing none,
One second.
I'm sorry.
One second.
Oh,
Yeah, so if there's nobody in person, I did have a comment to read into the record by a resident that stopped by earlier today. Okay, so this comment is from James Monticelli, 7264 Sadie Lane. This correspondence is in regard to the hearing taking place tonight about the SAD proposal for the homestead condominiums. I just wanted to make sure that the board assessing the proposal has certain information that may or may not have been disclosed. I believe this information is pertinent. In the past, the Homestead Association tried to get the required percentage of votes and could not obtain them. That time, they made it a requirement to count your vote that the homeowner was in good standing with the association in lieu of their annual maintenance fees being paid up, approximately $375 a year. This last vote gathering, they dropped the above mentioned requirement. So they got the percentage required. I do not know what the percentage of people that voted yes are negligent on payments. I just thought the board should be aware of what's happening on this end. For these kinds of projects to work, you need full disclosure and honesty. And I do not want the residents here to have an impossible burden placed on them. I am not complaining or stating anyone did anything wrong. Just wanted to supply some information I think is important before a loan is approved, because that is what this is all about. Thank you. That's signed, Mr. James Monticelli. So I just want to put that on there. And this is aside from this comment, but I do think it's pertinent to what's going on here. A question was asked. If a homeowner is unable to meet their tax burden, what happens to that extent? Is a lien placed on the home? What happens? And as treasurer, correct me if I'm wrong, the township is made whole by the county, and the delinquent taxes go towards the county, and the property owner then has to deal with the county making due payments for a period of time. And if there's any that there's unable to go on, this goes out for 5 years. If there's a problem with delinquent taxes for a certain period of time, those do go up for auction. And so just so all homeowners understand, once you're agreeing to this sort of arrangement, you know, the tax burden, the township has no issues collecting taxes. You know, it's something that it is a burden that they will be able to have to make on an annual basis. Okay. Thank you, thank you, Ward.
This question is to you, Treasurer, but then I thought I heard you say that the assessment will be only on the winter taxes.
Right.
Is there a reason for that, or can it be split into both winter and summer taxes, or is there a reason why?
For the summer and basically schools, Texas, so the township does theirs in the winter time. Ours has always been that way, and we haven't, that wasn't asked for when the proposal came, so that's not what we looked at. And you might talk about how the membership, how the list was done to get and let the people know how many voters had to approve it if they'd like to do that. Just kind of the percentages, so it's very clear that you did have the necessary signatures to come forward for the, SAD.
Okay, good.
So to the chair, from the, effort, and I take my hat off to the HOA. You know, they held night meetings and petition drives, and they went above and beyond in order to ensure that Homestead hit this project off the ground and get the roads fixed in Homestead. So again, I think the HOA, but it was approximately 58% of the residents of that community that decided that they would forward.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or any other one who would like to make a comment?
Angela Lockett, 6733 Sadie Lane. Some of the neighbors have been asking me this one question is if they can pay their assessment upfront to keep their taxes from going up, to keep their mortgages from going up. Is that a possibility for them to pay for this assessment upfront? Okay.
Did you say yes?
Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Johan Warfield, 630 Lane. I'm gonna have a few questions. Well, the first question is, what is the interest rate?
1.5%.
1.5%. So if you pay it up front, that interest rate.
Right, yeah.
Okay, also, just to kind of go off of some of the previous comments, from reading the letter I received, it looked like the amount that is required of us is higher than we initially, were told. And I was wondering, why are those two numbers different? And where that connection came from?
It's about $50.
And
1289 versus 13.
Yeah, so the number that Director Luckett read tonight was based on, I believe, a 2% interest rate, and it was based on one of the early numbers had a 2% one-time interest applied to the project, and we recalculated actually today with our treasurer's office to establish that it was actually an annual rate each year. So there's a formula that goes into that. So having an annual 2% rate each year for 5 years bumped that number up slightly. So that's what the higher number was from having 2% each year instead of just a one-time 2% applied to it. But to answer the other question, that was the estimates we've created were based on 2%.
Okay.
So we're not.
And to the chair, I want all the residents to understand, this is an estimate. Once the project get off the ground, it could very well go lower or go higher, depending on what the contractor finds when he gets into this project. Please understand.
is there a cap on how much higher it can go? I think everybody is thinking about it.
We have a contingency.
Yeah,
What was the contingency is how much? 20%. 20%? No, 100%. So we think that it should consider our infrastructure.
You need to be talking into the microphone because folks cannot hear you at home.
I'm Marlene McCullough. Now, I'm just guessing, but I'm pretty sure our infrastructure is not horrific. So I would think that the 20%, based on what the contractors and the consultants gave us, should be sufficient. So I would hope that it might go down, because if we don't use it, then we technically are not borrowing it. Is that correct? So that's what we're gonna hope for. Pray for.
So
I'll second.
my name is Ava Patton, 6459 Sadie Lane. I want to address Mr. Warfield's last question, which was, is there a cap on that? So we have a quote, which we do not plan to exceed. We also have a contingency for any overruns. So, that's the plan. None of us want to go over, what we've already estimated, because we understand that. So we will do everything we can to make sure that that doesn't happen. And that's the best answer I can give right now, because until we actually start constructing, we don't, know. We don't know if we don't know how much of that contingency we'll use. We know with the basic, the amount that was quoted, we know that that'll cover most of everything, but in some of those areas, those bad spots where we need to use our contingency, we don't know how bad that will be until we start to do the construction. Okay?
A couple of comments
Sure, go ahead.
from the conversation, just a couple of clarifying comments. If I recall, the original construction cost estimate from the contractor was between 1.2 and 1.3 million. The final number between 1.6 and 1.7 million has that 20% contingency and a lot of incidental costs in there. So that's a pretty significant cushion. Even beyond that, if there were to be overages beyond that cost with a significant contingency, state law requires that if there's an increase of more than 10% beyond that number that we're giving tonight, there would have to be another public hearing process to address that. So the neighbors would be notified if it went 10% above that cost estimate, but the cost estimate that's been presented tonight is already very high relative to the initial construction cost that was given. I'll also use this opportunity to just mention that there will be another hearing in the resolution on tonight's agenda that the board is being asked to consider that addresses specifically the role, the tax role and the individual obligations under that role. So that hearing is set for June 20th, if the board approves that date tonight, just for everybody to be aware. So that's 2 weeks from tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Support.
Motion by trustee Frazier, support by trustee Martin to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
thank you, board.
Now we're going to come to correspondence. I do believe that our DPA director has the correspondence that she wanted.
Good evening, board. Thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to remind everyone of the first midweek music concert that will take place tomorrow in Harris Park from 7 to 9. We do have midweek music scheduled for all 4 Wednesdays in the month of June, and that will take place at Harris Park from 7 to 9. Each week we'll have a theme and giveaways, a couple of food trucks. And if you get there ahead of time to give you something to do while we wait for the concert to start, we will be doing bingo. So, but just coordinating with some of the local businesses for some of those fun giveaways, for the bingo prizes and for those team nights. But again, that's every Wednesday in June from 7 to 9 at Harris Park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? Okay, is there any post? Director Luckett.
Thank you, board. So to the board, I am pleased to announce the first sidewalk project in the township history has come to an end. It was a successful project. To the board, I want to thank you. To residents of Haggerty subdivision, their quality of life have improved 100%. They're very happy. They want me to thank you all personally, and job well done.
Director Luckett, we have to thank you. I know how many miles you've gone through that subdivision. So you should have had a step counter because that would have been very interesting. Thank you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I'd like to add to that, and I was talking to Director Luckett a few weeks ago. I took a drive through Haggerty sub, and I was amazed at how many sidewalks they have replaced. Sometimes like the entire sidewalk in front of the house. And B, they did a fantastic job. It looks great. And I'm glad that the residents are happy. It looks very good. They did a real good job. So everybody should be commended, Director Luckett and your construction crew. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think that's the end of that. There is no unfinished business, so we're going to move to new business item number 1, which will be to consider approval of resolution 2023-12, a resolution to establish a homestead condominium SAD and to schedule a public hearing on the assessment roll for that SAD. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
The board.
I have a motion from trustee Frazier, supported by trustee Boyd. You'll approve that resolution. Is there any discussion on the motion? Turn it over to.
Thank you, board. The resolution you just read was a 2-part resolution. The first part addresses the establishment of the district that's being considered for road repairs in a homestead condominiums. It includes repairs basically across the entire street network on 6 different streets. So the public hearing tonight was to take comment on the establishment of that district. Now the board gets to vote on solidifying that and creating a district. The other aspect of the resolution is to go ahead and proceed with a public hearing at which individual residents are given the opportunity to support or raise any concerns or objections to their individual contribution or assignment under the tax roll for the project. So it's a public hearing for the tax roll for the project, which solidifies that cost that we read earlier tonight. So that hearing would be scheduled June 20th if you approve this resolution.
Thank you.
We're here to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, now we move on to item number 2, consider approval of a vendor agreement involving the Van Buren Township Police Department, Wayne Police Department, the Romulus Department, and Hebron Health for a shared behavioral clinic to be embedded with the consortium agent.
Good evening, board. Thank you for your time this evening. We are asking you to authorize us to enter into this vendor agreement. It's with 3 communities to form a consortium with Hagera Health for an embedded clinician who's going to be available to follow up on individuals in crisis and provide for ongoing stabilizing treatment for those individuals. This clinician will be an employee of Hagera Health, who is the largest mental health care provider in Wayne County, and be contracted out to the 3 consortium agencies. Hagera Health will assume all liability for their employee as well. This the practical purpose for this social worker or this clinician will be to follow up on calls for service that involve those that are in crisis. So it will primarily be working on a referral basis. Officer goes to the scene, they stabilize the scene, the person is treated for that specific crisis. The embedded clinician will follow up at a later date based off the officer's referral to ensure ongoing treatment. What we're requesting is authorized into this with Higera Health and the three communities. Financially, we have reallocated $17,493 to fund this from July 1st to the end of this year. The next year, we will be requesting a $34,000 appropriation for our budget, the 2024 budget year, to pay for this clinician that will split with the three agencies.
As you know, we've all sat through the work study and we heard what this is supposed to do to the department. We're looking forward to seeing how this works, which we will be reported back to. So what helps the residents and what's going to help our police department, we certainly can support. So can I have a motion to approve?
Support.
I have a motion from trustee Frazier and support from Don Quinn. Is there any questions on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item is to consider approval of entering into a 3-year contract with, I want to say Fuchsias. That's how they pronounce it. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair. Make the motion to enter into a 3-year agreement.
Support. I'll turn it over to you. Great.
Thank you very much for entertaining this. Just as a reminder, what Fuchsias is, we had a work study on it. We had the DDA meeting on it as well. The DDA is partnering with us on this to help fund some of the project. Also going to help us with the local businesses. But basically, for folks that are unaware, it was in the paper last week or the week before. We've all been talking about it. Fuchsias is a software dashboard that brings private cameras into basically one spot. And if the business wants to partner with us and allow us access, for example, to be able to see the back of the building, the front of their building, maybe they want it on their cash register, they will allow us access into their camera system for investigative purposes. We will not be sitting and watching these cameras. They're mostly just like our flock cameras. We don't sit and watch those. What happens is the crime gets committed. We go to our flock cameras during the time period and we look at the video and see if there's any investigative leads that we can get out of it. Fuchsias is the same way. It's a software technology that allows somebody's existing camera system to be accessed by the police department from a desk in the detective bureau or from an officer in his computer in his car. And it speeds up the investigation. Many times when we're trying to get video, when we're at a business, we're trying to get their video. The employee that's working doesn't know how to use the system, for example, or it's not the person that has access to it, or the IT is not available, and we may wait a couple days, and depending on how long the retention is that business is recording, we may lose it in the time period that we're able to get it. Fuchsias would allow us immediate access as long as the business that we partner with allows us to have access. They completely control the access. They can turn it on, off whenever they want to do it. There's other options that come with it. For example, there's a live link. So if a citizen is at Meyer and somebody's having a medical emergency, and they're calling dispatch saying, hey, this person's having a heart attack, can you get help here? They can get the help there, but while they're getting the help there, they could, if the resident allowed access to their cell phone, the dispatch could send a link to that cell phone. You click on it, it activates the camera, and it allows dispatch to see what's going on. So in certain situations that would be appropriate. It also records it and we can use it for later. They also have a situation where camera, let's say there's a camera registry where a business doesn't want us to have access, but they want us to know we have cameras. So they create a registry for the police department.
so that we can, go to and see who has cameras in the area when we're doing our investigations, and we can send emails to that location and say, hey, did anything happen during this time? If it did, please contact Detective so-and-so. We're looking into this happening. So there's several practical applications. There's also a panic alert that we could put in our schools for school safety. For example, a teacher, if a critical incident occurred in the school, there's an app that we get through this program that we're purchasing, that we want to purchase, that if they hit this panic alert, it will activate the the 4 closest cameras to that cell phone that's being alerted, and it will activate them and turn them on at our dispatch, and our dispatchers can see what's going on around the area where that panic alert occurred and can relay the information to officers for officer safety. I want to show you a quick video here. It's a minute and a half, I believe. The Atlanta shooter, Atlanta was able to use these applications, and you'll be able to see.
At 12:08 this afternoon, we were called just down the street to 1110 West P Street. This is a medical facility of the Northside Hospital. There's at that location. The shooting did occur inside the waiting room of that medical facility, where 5 individuals were shot. The clarity that I think that we would want to know as a city. As a society, we just don't have this particular moment, but we'll provide it as soon as we engage with that.
So trying to maintain a safe and respectful distance, that they continue their work and try to get to the bottom of whoever will find us.
Police are also on foot, canvassing the area.
The suspect is still at large. It looks like this person has on a gray hoodie and blue jeans.
As we get information that's pointed by citizens, we're able to use the camera network to quickly go to that location even before officers arrive. So it's helpful, and we have citizens to continue to do that.
Seeing what else there's a suspect.
Yes.
All right, and you see him in that attire, as you mentioned, that was shown from images that were given to police. You see,
If you rewind the hand of time 4 years, we probably would not be where we are today. Technology played a huge role, but technology doesn't do any good without people who are determined to capture an individual that would do something like this. And today we saw where those two things came together in an amazing way. We have a fairly new real-time crime center by a local company named Fusus. Flock is a fairly new company. It's a local company as well. We have partnered with both of those companies, and they have brought us some amazing tools, as has the other jurisdictions in the Atlanta area. Those tools are what really got us the clues that we needed to make this successful, and the people that were getting those clues from that technology made this happen.
I wanted to show you this because this came out after we were researching it. This incident occurred. And as you know, we have Flock. You guys have supported the Flock cameras. Atlanta, Georgia has the Flock cameras as well. They have fuses. And they use the technology to help them in critical. So here's something nationally that occurred. We will have the same stuff these major cities have. And if you have any, we've talked about it a ton. If you have any more questions, I'll be more than happy to explain.
Okay, I have a motion from trustee Martin, supported by trustee Frazier. Is there any other discussion?
Chief, in the example that you gave as far as when you use the cell phone, dispatch can send a link to the cell phone and the person can click on that link. And now the camera on that cell phone is active. How long does that link last? Does it go away when the person shuts down their camera, or when they shut down their phone? Or is the link on there permanently?
No, it's just like, it's no different than searching on the internet. If you click the X out or you turn it off, it's off.
Okay.
It's disconnected. It's a temporary link.
Well,
If they hang the phone up, it's gone. We can't get back into it.
okay.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, to consider approval of resolution 2023-11 to establish fees for residential collection of solid waste. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion, turn it over to the director. Director.
Thank you very much, board. So before you, the tax resolution will establish household solid waste fees for the 2023 fiscal year. As we have discussed in prior meetings, the fees will be split between, they are proposed to be split between the 2023 summer property taxes and the 2023 winter property taxes. In the resolution, there are 3 separate fees. The first is the cart service household fee. This fee covers any residential property in the township which receives weekly curbside cart collection service and accounts for the majority of the residential households that are going to be included in our program, which is approximately 773. The other fees that are listed are for condominium communities which had previously received dumpster collection service under the township's host community agreements. And they have elected to continue their dumpster service with the township and agreed to place the costs on the individual property tax bills of the condos within them. These communities have slightly lower annual costs per household of cart fees, but I also want to remind the board that they do not receive the same level of service as those households who get cart collected. For the cart service rate, the fee is $165.84 per year, which breaks down to approximately $13.82 per month, which is under the $14 per month that we had publicly stated and discussed. Residents will see a fee of $82.92 on their summer water property tax bills. This calculated fee includes a $1.05 per month administrative charge, which is intended to cover township staffing costs for the administration of contracts and provide an allowance for non-collected revenues at 0.5%. This concludes the summary, and I am happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Mr. Chair. So that yearly fee is good for just 1 year, and what happens in subsequent years?
So the fee will be on the summer 2023 and winter 2023 property taxes. The costs for service do go up each year. So the contract will be a 5-year contract. The cost for service goes up approximately 5% each year. So those fees are going to be recalculated, and that resolution will have to come back to the board annually.
Any other questions? Comments? I have a motion from trustee Frazier, support by trustee Boyd. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is to consider approval of the purchase of a new bingo display system.
Chair. Motion have approved the purchase of a new bingo display system from United Novelty for $4,389.95, with expenses to be split between senior endowment and senior programming budget.
Support.
Good evening, board. The current bingo system we purchased over 20 years ago, with the cost split between the endowment committee and the township. It has served the senior department well in that time, with our Friday afternoon penny bingo being one of the most popular programs that we offer. Unfortunately, the current system, which consists of a ball machine that breaks quite often and also requires a second staff member to write the call numbers on a large whiteboard, needs to be replaced. The new proposed system includes a ball machine and a large lighted number display board. In accordance with the Senior Endowment Committee bylaws, all purchases by the committee must be approved by the Township Board of Trustees. The cost of the new system is $4,389.95, with $2,194.98 contributed by the Senior Endowment and $2,194.97 coming from senior programming. It is the recommendation of the Community Services Department and the Senior Endowment Committee, as shown in the attached meeting minutes, to purchase this system. Questions?
Any questions? It's pretty good to write a name. Okay, I have a motion from trustee Martin, supported by trustee Frazier. All in favor?
Aye.
You got your bingo machine. Bingo. Okay, the next thing is to consider approval of purchase of vacant parcels. with the numbers as reported from Wayne County with a total not to exceed $10,000. That's yours too, Dan.
Yeah. So as part of the Ironville Trail Section D, the township staff, we've been working continuously to secure easements for the pathway construction. And we are just about completing the easement agreements with Waverly Apartments. These two parcels that we're looking to purchase are the last remaining easements needed for Section D. Through the process of a formal title search with help from the assessing office, it was discovered that the California-based company that originally owned these two parcels no longer exists. And so as of April 2023, the two parcels became eligible for auction on the Wayne County property foreclosure list. The parcels will first be offered to the state of Michigan to purchase, and if the state declines, they will next be offered to the township. A notification letter will be sent to the township assessor, clerk, and treasurer on the first Wednesday in July. And then the township has 2 weeks from the receipt of that letter to reply to the county noting which parcels they want to purchase. The total purchase price will be listed in the letter, and that'll include all the taxes, interests, and fees for the sale. But the only cost information that's available to us right now is the delinquent taxes. So for parcel 83-073-99-0014-000, the delinquent taxes are $1,200, $32.73. And then for 83-078-99-0005-000, the delinquent taxes are $2,495.93. Since the county can't give us the exact amount at this time, we're asking for to not to exceed $10,000 to purchase both parcels once we get the letter.
Are there any other questions or comments? How about a motion to?
I make a motion we approve purchase of the vacant parcel.
Did you? I have a motion from trustee Grazier, seconded by trustee Boynton to approve. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is to consider approval of the purchase of a 23 Chevy Tahoe with a cost not to exceed $52,000. Can I have a motion?
Support.
Okay, I have a motion. Now we're going to turn it over to the chief.
Good evening, board. Thank you. Yes, this vehicle purchase request is to replace an inspection vehicle that was a hand-me-down, very well, thank you, police car from 2013. Although the costs to repair it now are raised right about over $7,000 with 145,000 miles on it. It's no longer a functional vehicle to put the money into, a vehicle that old. So we're looking to reallocate funds that I had in capital improvement for a couple of other projects that can be put off to purchase this car now, so we can then take the pickup truck, which is currently used by me, put back in fire prevention where it was initially bought for, and so it can continue in that way.
Any questions? Okay, I guess whoever makes the motion, well, we got the motion and the support, but the motion should include that it is coming out of capital improvement.
Absolutely.
Because of the fact that it wasn't listed originally, but it now will come out of that because other things have been
Right.
Is the motion made? Okay with that?
I would include that into the motion, that it is coming out of where again?
Capital improvement.
Coming out of capital improvement.
Yes.
And what else did it?
It's coming out of capital improvement, listing it now when it wasn't in the original budget. So it now it's going to come out of there because other items have been changed.
As stated.
Kurt, you'll work that out for us.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
and before everybody gets worked up about the price of the vehicle, that also includes it being outfitted for
Yes,
fire
sir.
department use.
Yes, it does. That vehicle will be licensed as a emergency response vehicle. I do take it on medical calls during the day, so it has to be licensed vehicle to carry medications and so forth.
Just want to make that point clear that 52,000 includes, it being outfitted with lights and siren.
Sure. Yeah, motion change, okay, all in favor? Aye, motion passes.
Thank you, Todd.
You're welcome. Okay, that brings us down to reports, so I would say the January 23rd financial report, the February 23rd financial report, and the March 23rd financial report we received there. Now we're down to public comment on non-agenda items. Are there any public comments? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, my name is Lori Price. I live at 9405 Macy Road in Willis. However, I do own a home in Hagerty Sub at 42053 Arthur Street. I have owned that house for roughly 15 years. I faithfully pay my summer and winter taxes. I have renter's insurance. I pay all of this without fail. Taxes come to roughly $4,000 a year. Renter's insurance is around $900. First time I renovated the house before a tenant moved in, I had to clean the house completely, organize the garage. I had to remove all the former owner's furniture, personal items, clothing, everything, pay back taxes, etc. I had no problem getting a landfill pass from the clerk, Jennifer Price. Dispose of items from the house, garage, and yard debris. I provided her with my tax statements and proof of payment. She gladly provided me with a landfill pass that was good for 24 visits. I did not have a driver's license with the same address as the house. I was renovating as I live in Willis. Then again, in 2019, when the tenant moved out, I obtained another dump pass from Jennifer Price, good for 24 visits under the same circumstances. Still have that pass. I have never lived at 42053 Arthur Street, and my driver's license was never an issue until this year. Additionally, 2 large maple trees were removed at a cost of $600. The drain was replaced at a cost of $2,800. The furnace was replaced and air conditioning was added to the house. A new refrigerator was purchased. I ran up $28,000 to $30,000 worth of repairs, cleanup, renovations, etc. on my credit cards, which took me 7 years to pay off. While this tenant was in occupancy, a new roof was put on the house and a new hot water tank was installed. A new stove was purchased and installed in the house. As soon as the tenant finally notified me of the caved-in roof on the garage, I had the roof repaired at a cost of $2,500. Whenever a tenant moves out, I clean, scrub, organize, paint, replace all items that need to be replaced. When my first tenant moved out, she left about $15,000 worth of damage. Carpet, parquet flooring, linoleum, and luan all needed to be ripped out and replaced. New flooring was installed throughout the entire house except for the utility room. Walls needed to be washed, repaired, and painted. Light fixtures needed to be replaced. The garbage disposal. The bathroom sink, vanity, medicine cabinet, and linoleum all needed to be replaced. Additionally, the tenant left some large pieces of furniture at the curb, and I am assuming Waste Management and took care of those items during their regular pickup. A movable island was added to the kitchen area. The overhead garage door needed to be replaced. All the stored items in the garage had to be discarded, and a major cleanup was done due to the fact that the tenant failed to notify me of the caved-in garage in a timely manner. Now to get to my point. The township happily accepts the payments I make every year in taxes, which I pay faithfully. I also pay for the taxes on my own property, as well as homeowners insurance. I live on 10 acres in Willis. I have my own garbage pickup that I pay for. I am allowed to burn all my yard debris, and it is burned on my property or disposed of in my compost. I say this all for a very important reason. I was taken quite aback when I came to the township a couple weeks ago to get a landfill pass and was told I had to have a driver's license with the 42053 address on it. I asked what had changed, and I was told it had always been that way. Why then have I always been able to get a landfill pass to dispose of garbage and incidentals, yard debris, whatever else I need to dispose of at that rental. I feel like I'm being penalized for a tenant moving in, a tenant moving out, and me having to clean up the mess. I was taken aback. Okay. Again, I've never been a resident. I was told when the new resident moves in that tenant can get a pass with their license and take the stuff to the landfill. But that is insane. It is not the responsibility of a tenant to get rid of items that do not belong to them or waste that was not created by them and expect them to take it to the landfill. Again, that is insane. Without knowing a thing about what I charge for rent or the expenses I incur with this property, I was told by the clerk that I made a profit renting the house, to which I said I do not. And how dare she say that to anyone, even if I did make a profit. For the record, however, I do not make a profit. I am at a loss every single year. I never make any money on that property. And yet I continue to pay my taxes. I then stopped by the supervisor's office and told the secretary there that I would gladly pay to dispose of items, yard debris, etc., from the 42053 address. But I was told I could not do that. Again, what? I do not need waste management to dispose of my own personal property, yard debris, or waste from my Willis home. I have successfully been taking care of that property for 45 years, 30 years before I owned the Arthur. I'm quite offended by the clerk's choice of words that imply under the veil of decency that I would abuse the use of a landfill pass for my own personal use. The township really needs to take a good long look at the policy they have in place for homeowners who happen to rent out a home in Van Buren Township when it comes to renovating the home they rent out. You may not like that I do not live in the district as a resident, whatever the reason may be. Clearly, it is not because I do not pay taxes or keep up with repairs, so I can only guess it is for some other reason. Without any history of why I have a house in Van Buren Township, what the circumstances are for my living in this, you assume you know what homeowners who rent their homes out are all about. You judge people and their intentions without a thought about what a hardship you put on homeowners without conscience. So I ended up taking the yard debris home to Willis with the help of a neighbor, so Van Buren could be neat and tidy. That is a sad commentary for Van Buren Township, and I grew up right around the corner here in Brookside. If I need to get rid of any large items in the house, I guess I will have to take those items home as well, since nothing but trash is allowed at the curbside. I would not be a fair and just landlord if I left it for all the next tenants to take care of. They should not be forced to inherit someone else's junk. The audacity of suggesting that that is what I should do is insulting, as being disrespectful in my eyes to any future tenant. And that was what was told to me, to leave it for the tenant coming in. So am I allowed to put out the hopper since I am not a resident? My license doesn't have the Arthur Street address on it. Do I have to wait for a new tenant before trash will be picked up? This idea is so convoluted and disturbing. I am sure it is not that way for just me, but for anyone else who is in the same situation I am in. You tie the hands of citizens, homeowners who are trying to make sure their homes and property are taken care of properly so they do not end up with warnings or citations, which I got 40 long. And I was in the hospital when I got that for 5 days. As soon as I got out, I went and cleaned up the yard. I'm going to have more yard waste, but according to your policy, I can't even put out bags of yard waste if I am not a resident, with my license showing I reside there. I will have to haul bags of yard debris that was generated in Van Buren Township to my home in Willis to dispose of it, because I cannot get a landfill pass in Van Buren. And now trash pickup is going to be added to the property taxes. I'm not complaining. I've always paid my taxes, never been delinquent on either home. And the property that I own up in the UP, I have never failed to pay my taxes anywhere or my homeowner's insurance. I'm not complaining, I'm just trying to make a point. Be careful what you do and wish for. The next person who owns a property at this address may not be as conscientious as I am about paying taxes and making sure they support the township. When taxes are raised or assessments are put on property, when repairs are done, like sidewalk replacement and garbage removal and disposal, which I'm not disputing. I totally agree with those. You have to put assessments on a building or a home, or if you have to make improvements to the functioning of the township, I'm all for it. But make sure you take care of people also who don't have a residency in your township. I had planned on doing some landscaping and sodding to the property as well. I am now second guessing that decision. What would I do with all the yard waste that would create? I certainly would not be transporting that debris to Willis to dispose of it. And according to Van Buren Township policy, I am not allowed to use landfill to dispose of it. That's sad. I could go on and on. However, I know how boards work. I work at the consolidated schools, and I see the board work at work there every week, giving their lip service and nothing much more. I get that the township wants more money, but tying the hands of homeowners thinking they will sell or move into the homes they own in Van Buren Township is a great disservice not only to the homeowners who rent out their property, but to the residents as well. Sends a clear message to the people who do reside in the township, who may move, downsize, relocate, or want to remain the owner of a house in Van Buren Township. I am more resolved than ever to remain the owner of the house property at 42053 Harvard Street. The actions of the township are not going to deter me from remaining the owner of this property. Hopefully, the township is not going to feel it is necessary to harass, warn, or cite me regarding petty issues that may occur at this property due to me bringing these issues up today. It's time for the township to respect homeowners, whether they live in the township or not, and not tie their hands when they are trying to do the right piece of thing and taking care of property they own in Van Buren Township.
Yeah. Thank you. Fair. Sir. Excuse me, we certainly do want to respect our residents. What I would ask you to do, if you would give your phone number to Brittany, she will have the director that is in charge of that department give you a call, and maybe he can work you through it.
Just disheartening to know that I may not be a resident, but I certainly take care of it.
We will give that to the director that said that department.
Yes.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming forward.
Thank you.
Is there anything?
No public comment from our virtual link, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any board that has a comment? Oh, hearing none. I mean, we need a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Or
I have a motion and a second to adjourn, which is not debatable. All in favor?